I'll go tally the votes. I need you to bring me your torch. This is where we learn who is the ultimate survivor. I'll read the votes.
Oh boy, we have so much to talk about. Ollie and Phil, we just experienced a fantastic episode of Survivor this past week. We're going to be reviewing it today. We're also going to be talking about main characters in Survivor and the history of the edits of main characters. Who is a main character for this season? Oh, it's going to be such a great conversation. I'm so excited. Phil, I want to start with you. What did you think of this episode?
Man, Matthew, you said it. This was such an amazing episode. I hear a lot of people talking about the fact that it is the best of the new era, period. Not even, best of the season. I hear a lot of people touting this as the best of the new era. I was digging it. I was digging it hardcore.
Yeah, there were so many elements in this episode that made me think of old era Survivor. Ollie, let me go to you. I mean, what were some of the things that happened this episode that kept you on the edge of your seat?
Everything. I loved the dynamics in kind of gameplay and the story that the episode as a whole took you on, not just with one tribe, but all the tribes. But in terms of the tribe that obviously went to tribal, the journey that we saw in kind of gameplay and strategy, it was really fun to see because it made the tribal so unpredictable and you actually had no idea what was going to happen. Yes, best episode in a long time.
Here we go.
And I just enjoyed the balance. Like, I feel like this episode did get to see a lot of each tribe differently. Like, we got to see a storyline with Reba. We got to see kind of how the dynamics are starting to form in Bello. So, no, I enjoyed so much of it. And the challenges, of course.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think part of the thing that made this such a fantastic episode, which we'll also get into, is the choice of music was so fantastic. I mean, the music in Survivor has been incredible, but there were some really clever things that they did with the edit of this episode that I think are going to be worth talking about. But before we do, I mean, Ollie, you touched on something that's been on my mind recently, which is like refining the game of new era Survivor. This finally, season 45 to me as a viewer feels like we finally hit our stride in terms of the structure of new era Survivor. I mean, is this just me? I don't want to take away anything from the players of seasons 41 through 44, because at the end of the day, they had very, very great experiences on the show too that shouldn't be taken away from them. But the structure of 45 and the decisions from production and the game makers really make a lot of sense to me this time around.
Yeah, I think really what it came down to was obviously after season 40, kind of Jeff Probst wanted to really reinvent Survivor and kind of give it a new feel. And I think what he did was he went a bit too far, like not in a bad way, but in the sense of he went really for kind of like the strategy and the advantages and the gameplay aspect, which isn't bad. Like, we do enjoy it. Like, I do love it. But I think when it was so gung heavy on the strategy and the advantages and the big moves, we lost a lot of what people enjoy, which is finding out about the players. And I think what they kind of twigged with season 44 was when you get a good group of people that aren't just, you're not putting them on there for strategy. There is personality and there is, not saying 41, 42, 43 didn't. There was loads of lovely, great characters. Don't come for me. But I think when you saw that 44 had this big push of characters, then you added that on to 45 and it was like, right, let's make sure that we have the great gameplay, but then bring that old school thing of learning about these people and actually seeing their journeys, which is what I think they've done right this season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, camp life too. I don't want to jump the gun here. We're going to be going through the episode and I don't want to hit it far too early. I'm like so excited to get into stuff, but everything from the idol search on Reba was so fun this episode, where you're seeing a group of 4 that on the surface, it's like, oh, this is a clean group of 4. But and guess what? In a 60-minute episode, that is all we would have gotten. Okay, this is a clean group of 4. We're not going to talk to them. We're not going to see much from them. We're not going to see any sort of any of the dynamics, the inner dynamics of that 4, unless they're going to drive them. However, in this super new era, is the 90-minute episodes, or is that like super new era now? Is it there was new era and now there's super new era? We're given the time to look into things like this. We're going, oh, okay, it's a 4, but it's also a 2-2. But there is also from that 2-2, Julie and Drew are also very close. But D is catching on. There's a lot going on. So again, don't want to jump the gun here. We're going to get into everything, but I'm just loving that we're getting to see everything. There's a lot to talk about.
There's so much to talk about. Phil, I totally agree with you. I think the 90-minute episodes for Survivor work really in its favor, I have to say. I just think we see, like you said, just so much more of the story of these people. And we're going to talk about main characters in a little bit. It's actually kind of hard to identify the main characters of the season when basically everyone gets a confessional each episode. So that's going to be really exciting to talk about. I know. We definitely have identified some people who we can...
Justice for Jemiah! Not saying
there you go. We also have in this episode Sabaya, who does get taken out of the game. We're gonna start breaking down the episode now to talk about how did this happen and why was it so amazing to watch as a viewer. So, first thing that had to have happened was Emily basically saying, "Hey, there were only 2 votes red at Tribal Council. What was with that?" Do we think Emily was right to call this out, or should she have sort of kept the information to herself?
Oof. I definitely think that it was very smart of her to clock it. Do I think that it would have been smart of her to bring it up to somebody? Even so, yes. Do I think that it is smart for her in front of the entire tribe to target one person and say, Sabaya, did you vote tonight? Not my favorite move of hers, if I'm being completely honest. But I think like everything leading up to that was a good choice from her. Hey, good clock. Hey, honestly, even let people know that you clocked it. Because once again, don't let everyone think that you were just this sitting duck. But I would have loved if even the small refinement of, did we all vote tonight? Versus, hey, did you vote tonight? A little different.
Yeah. No, I think what would have been what would have made what she did even better was had she gone to Caleb privately and said, Caleb, why was it only 2 votes and then it happened? Because again, regardless of whether all 4 votes were going to Brandon, you would still need to have the 3rd one to confirm anything, because I think Emily's smart enough to know that after 2 votes, there can still be 2 more votes and it can tie. So I definitely think it was smart. I think it would have been smarter for her to pull Caleb aside, her closest ally, and go, hey, is it weird that there was only 2 votes red? Instead of going, so who didn't vote? Because we all know that was the case. Anyone that was being observant as she was, which was good, would have gone, hold on. But yeah, I think just saying it out loud to everyone, it was like, oh, come on, babes, we're rooting for you.
I don't know if it was. Yeah, Phil.
Please go ahead, Matthew. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the thing that I think made this particularly interesting was the fact that Caleb and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe they both knew that Sabaya wasn't going to vote at that tribal council. So the fact that Emily, and we see this play out later in the episode where suddenly Emily is trusted with information from Sabaya, the fact that Emily was the only one left out, it could have gone, I don't know how it would have gone if she would have went up to Caleb independently and would have said, hey, I noticed this. Is this weird? I'm curious to know what Caleb would have done in that scenario. Would he have lied or would he have been upfront with her? But it obviously works out for Emily in the end, but clearly a very risky move.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were you going to say, Phil?
Yeah, no, there's one thing that I noticed, and I'd love to see what you all thought about this. If there's any sort of, foreshadowing, or if this was just a throwaway line here. All this said, I actually don't think that Emily doing this or saying this was that aggressive of a move. It seemed like it got sort of brought up and then dropped. But we got a confessional from Caleb where he says the old Emily is not fully dead. It is still inside her, and it rises to the surface every now and again. Are we done with crazy Emily? Are we done with like sort of aggro Emily, or is this, as it seems like they just deliberately gave us the confessional for, it will always be inside her, and we were going to get glimpses of this all throughout this season?
No,
I love the latter. I want that to be known. I would love to see aggro Emily seated throughout.
No, I do think that was a good clock, because I think now we've seen with the thing. I think she is gonna we're gonna see more of her, and I definitely think, again, we saw it straight away, so we know that it's there. We know that she can be the outspoken person. So I definitely think if she makes merge, I definitely see outspoken Emily coming into play, because all it will take is making merge and then one person going, well, why don't we just go for Emily? Emily will just be like, okay, let me spill all of this on you then. So
yeah,
that's what I want to happen.
I hope that Emily, because here's the thing, right? We've seen with other players in the past, if they come out too strong, they tend to take a back seat and revert into themselves. And I like with Emily is she's listened to Caleb, she's listened to the other people on her tribe, she's adapting. I don't see that as her changing who she is as a person. I don't think anyone should have to change who they are as a person to play the game of Survivor. But I do think it's about adapting your strategy, adapting your social awareness. And I think that's what Emily has shown to be a very good strength. And to be honest, I think that there are people, we'll talk about it soon, and maybe this is a good transition. I think that there are people who are excited to team up with Emily when we have a swap coming up next episode. Like, let's talk about Katora for a second. In the first 2 episodes of the season, and even in episode 3, we've seen Katora basically saying, why is everyone so obsessed with Bruce? We need to get Bruce out. Bruce is a threat to our games. And who was the first person to openly verbalize that day 1 of the game? Mm-hmm. Emily. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually curious to see if Katora and Emily will end up on the same tribe at this tribe swap. And if not, I'm definitely curious to see if they both make it to the merge, which I hope they both do, what happens out of that.
I would love to see it. I would love to see it. And for what it's worth, again, we're going to get into this. What is going on with Bruce's edit? It's not just, he is being stomped on. And I'm like, what is ahead of us, y'all? What is going on, guys? It's interesting. I don't know.
Well, what do you think, Ollie?
I'm not mad at it. No, but I think Bruce came in to this season having a very clear direction on what he wanted to do. And for me, when I remember watching back 41, because I recently just rewatched it before season 45 came on. And to be honest, you didn't really see that much of Bruce's personality. So I do feel like we are really seeing kind of what Bruce had to offer last season. But I feel like he almost has this thing of, everyone already knows how I played. So I'm going to overplay to make it look like I'm underplaying. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening, like almost what's happening here. I don't know, it's a very weird edit, but also I'm kind of sat here going, I can see all of the faults, and that's why Katora's picking this up. This is why Kendra, this is why Kelly, everyone's kind of going, what's he actually doing?
I went back and I rewatched the first episode of the season to prepare for today's video. And something I noticed was when Bruce had said, oh, like, I'm not here to give orders. Like, I'm not here to be the expert of the game and, like, tell you all how it should be played. And then we got that Bruce montage of telling them how the structure should be built and explaining around camp, like, what would be a waste of time to focus their energy on. But I have to say, if I was a player and I had a returning person on my tribe, I would be like, give me your advice on how to build our shelter. Like I want that, right? Like he said, braiding the palm fronds, I think they're called. Like he said, that's a waste of time. That's excellent for me to know. Let's conserve our energy as a team for those challenges. So I'm with you, Phil. I don't get the edit. There's something that happens in the immunity challenge this episode that I think we really need to talk about because it confused me. So let's talk about Bello as a whole too. Jake has a little scary moment where he has a spasm and almost falls over. Thankfully, it wasn't anything more than that. But we see that this opens the door between this Kendra and Jake moment. And we need to talk about this because I think the music was very telling. I loved it. When you went back and watched it, you didn't even realize the music was happening in the moment, but let's talk about it. So Kendra is basically changing her tune about Jake. What do we think that this says about Jake as a player?
You want to go first, Ollie?
No, I'm still thinking about it.
Okay, I mean, look, I think that it says a bit about the both of them, right? They're both playing a good game right now. They're leaving themselves open to make new alliances, to make new friendships. And I think that it's interesting, right? There are many ways to sort of cultivate a relationship. Sometimes it's, two super confident people that hype each other up, whatever. Sometimes it's two people at a low. I mean, in a weird way, we kind of saw that with Hannah and Brandon early on Lulu. This seems to be a really interesting pairing because, to your point, Matthew, it started because, Kendra was saw Jake sort of have this episode, which was very scary for a second there. And I feel like she felt this sort of instinct to help him and come to his aid. And through that, they get to talking. And I do think that they were very, very honest with one another. I think this is not a wasted scene at all. You're right, with the music swells and everything. This is not a wasted scene. This is not fluff. This seems real and it seems lasting. And I think a big call out for me was Kendra was honest with Jake about the fact that at one point he was a target for being a lawyer.
Right.
He goes, "Oh, have you heard my name floating around?" How easy is it to be like, "No, I haven't heard your name. No, and I haven't heard yours. Okay, just moving forward." No, she was more honest than that. She said, "Well, early on, your name was thrown out because you were a lawyer, but that was like the first day." She was able to qualify it as this is not a big thing, but I do want to let you know this. Interesting choice. What do you think, Ollie?
I think that for me, I feel like it shows more about Kendra as a player as opposed to Jake as a player.
What makes you say that?
So, I mean, there was part of me when the whole first thing happened, when I saw the start of the scene, as soon as I saw what Jake was doing, being someone that, has trained as a lifeguard, done first aid, done all of that, as soon as I saw him do that, I was like, you're about to inhale so much carbon monoxide. I was like, and so when I saw it happen, I was like, that's what you get for literally having your face in the fire. But then you kind of move on and we see the scene at the well. And I felt like it showcased how adaptable and actually flexible Kendra is, because it benefited Kendra more than Jake, in my opinion, because Kendra was able to give Jake kind of that information of, hey, yeah, your name was out there for these reasons. And she kind of almost did what Caleb was doing to Emily in a sense, not like full on, but because you kind of see Kendra go, yeah, you were a target. Here are the reasons why. So she basically gave Jake the opportunity to adapt his game, but then it made Jake want to work, would have possibly helped solidify something with Jake there. So I think it shows how adaptable and actually how social Kendra's being, because she has the girls with Brando, and now she also has this thing with Jake. So I think when you look at it, it's like, well, if they ever went to tribal, Kendra was there. Kendra was going to be one of the few people not going, because Jake was never going to go after her. The girls were never going to go after her, because even if it somehow ended up Kelly and Brando in the middle. That could have easily been stopped and changed had Jake then told Kendra what was going on with them too. So I think that's why that's why I think it really benefited Kendra more. Sorry, I went on a right journey there.
No, I think there's reason to, right? I think that we are looking at a tribe that now has multiple overlapping alliances from multiple angles. And it's funny, in the intro here, I sort of talked a tiny bit about what that looked like on Reba. But the truth is, on Reba, those 4 are so complex, but there are 2 that are so obviously outside of it all. On Bello, there is not a single person that is outside of these dynamics. All 6 of them are overlapping. Brando is really close with Kelly. Kelly is with the girls. But is she? Because she said she might jump to the guys. I'm sorry, Brando's with the girls. Wait, but Brando's also expressly wants to stay with the guys. Now Kendra and Jake are together. Katora and Bruce don't like each other. Oh, I'm sorry, it's one-sided. There are so many dynamics going on. And again, I think this is the joy of having 90-minute episodes. We're able to see it. It's not just, boys v girls. It's not just, pair. It's, no, this is more dynamic than that. There is a lot going on here. What do you think, Matthew? I feel like
I was so hoping to see them go to tribal council just to see where the chips fell. That's honestly it. Even think about it. You're right, Ollie. Kendra is she's doing what she needs to do, right? She is forming those bonds and connections. Really, really interesting, again, that she was like, yeah, I threw your name out the first day. Let's move on from that, though. And it seems like it kind of worked. We'll see moving forward in the season. But I think the interesting thing with this is now, who do they vote out at tribal council? Because if, let's say, they go and they all decide they want to vote out Bruce, because that's definitely what the edit is making it seem like Bella wants to do. What happens to that relationship? Jake is close to Bruce. What happens to that relationship with Kendra? Suddenly there's a burnt bridge there. Let's see. Hey, Chris in the chat. Good to see you. Let's see this. Kendra Jake scene was definitely interesting. I feel it's rare in Survivor for the bonds that happen a bit later on an original tribe to be the strongest. And it sounds like a rare scenario is happening. I mean, it was definitely interesting. And again, that music choice, it was just it made me feel like it was like a video game and a new level or a new pathway was opening up. That's what it felt like. It was so good. Let's jump over to Reba now. Again, I'm really disappointed. Not disappointed.
I love her music.
Reba's or?
No, I just love her music in general.
Yeah, we have great hits. All right, so we have this search for the idol, and it's Austin and Drew, but there's another strong music choice here as well. But we have D, who says something's weird, something's going on with Austin and Drew. And I was really, really excited for D and Julie, but mostly D at this point, for noticing that something weird is going on. And D and Julie catch Drew digging.
This whole boy is right. This was a super fun, incredible sort of dynamic to look in on. Again, maybe my favorite sort of thing to track through the episode, and I'm excited to see where this goes. Where once again, there's just 4 that on the surface, okay, we're all together. However, D, it's very clear, D is clocking Drew at the very least. Drew and Austin, but at the very least, Drew for sure. Where she's going, I feel like Drew and Austin have something going on. And Julie, with a little bit more naive, a little bit more trusting, it's like, oh, really? Tell me about this. But then they catch Drew digging, and it's so obvious. It's in their face, and Drew is lying to them. And as Austin's walking over, he's going, yeah, well, we saw Sifu looking, right? Very obviously giving him his alibi here. And even with that, Austin is not able. Yes, it's so much fun, Chris. And it's interesting because even after giving him the signal, oh, we're supposed to say this, Austin could not lie for long enough. And I feel like this is going to dismantle at some point. I want to know what you think, Ollie. Do you think that this is a long-standing 4?
No.
Do you feel like D?
No.
Give it to me. I'm curious.
No. I just want to talk about something Chris said in the chat, where he said 4 really strong players who are aligned but trying to play their own games. I don't necessarily think all 4 of them are trying to play their own game. I actually think that Drew and slightly Austin are trying to control all 4 games. So I think, to me, that's what's happening, because when we saw this, I was just sat there and I was like, how in the world are Drew and Austin going to get out of this one? Very smart thinking of Austin being like, well, we saw Sifu doing this, because at the end of the day, they're not going to, unless Dee uses her intuition and goes, were you digging over there? And that's what I wish. There is part of me, there is a world, a universe. I wish that she had gone straight to Sifu and gone, apparently you were digging over there for something. Because I really appreciated Dee this episode clocking it. And that shows her not only how observant she is as a player, but how vigilant she is as a player. Because I'm hoping she's now going to look at that, clock it, and be like, right, I've got to keep an eye on them. Because this is not me not being a fan of Drew, but the fact that they did kind of seemingly get away with it, I was sort of there like, no, like, call them out. Because again, when you saw later on and everything was like the hammer and everything was found, and you saw that they didn't tell J Maya and they tried to like loop J Maya out. For me, I would have been like, no, let J Maya know. Like, bring her in, because then that's like, that would have been a Kendra, like, in a sense, a Kendra thing where, okay, I'm going to just have this little thing going on. Benefits me. But yeah, to me, I feel like Drew and Austin, mainly Drew, are really trying to control this 4. And I'm hoping that's what Dee clocks later on. But I do not think this is going to last come like merge or anything. If all 4 of them make merge, I think Drew is going to kind of really amp up his kind of currency and be like, this is me being the strategic like mastermind. And then Dee going, mate, nope, not doing it.
I was going to say, in a weird way, Ollie, I think Dee has already clocked him for trying to control everything. What I don't think she's been able to do yet is convince Julie of that same exact fact.
Yes.
You know? And I think that that's going to be when the tide turns, when Dee can look at Julie and go, Julie, you see this? He is not to be trusted. But it's interesting. We heard Julie very early on. I can give her a little bit of an alibi. She compared Drew to her son. She goes, Drew reminds me so much of my son, and he needs a mom out here. It's literally what she said, word for word.
Really doesn't.
First of all, yes, he doesn't. He'll be fine. But at the same time, I do think it's going to be very tough for Dee to convince Julie that Drew is not the one.
Yeah. Let's talk about Drew for just like a quick second. We're going to talk about him more in the main character energy portion of today's video too. But Drew has such an interesting edit this season where we learn in episodes 1 or 2, I think 2, that's when he went on the journey, right? With Bruce and Brandon. He said a confessional and it stuck with me. He said, I am now like power hungry, or like he's itching for more power. And I think that is an amazing edit that he's been getting, because now he's like on a quest to find more and more and more. And like Ollie said, be in control of the tribe dynamics. And personally, I think that this is going to come back to get him at some point. You know, like I feel like we're learning a lot about him very quickly. And we'll see. We'll see.
As a person, I think I really do. There is some things I relate to Drew with. So as a person, I think Drew is lovely. As a player, I am waiting for the Drew downfall. I am waiting for the downfall of Drew, because I feel like he's gotten these advantages, even one from Caleb now. So yeah, I'm just waiting for it. So.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about
that.
Yeah,
I feel like I brought this up last week. He has just had the most positive edit for everything that's sort of going on. You even have him. You brought up the journey, Matthew. You have the confessional where he's like, "Oh, I think that was a really bad move on Bruce's part."
Right.
We'll get into it with the main character thing, but why are we getting Drew's view on Bruce's game so early? That's really, it's really interesting. It's really, really interesting to me. Cannot wait to see where it goes. But I do like that it seems as though he is being figured out at least by one person. There's one person clocking him. They're going to be able to potentially put some holes in his game, and I want to see how he counters that. I'm excited.
And Phil, let's go and let's talk about the reward, right? So Lulu gets a moment of hope. They do great, and they are the first team to win. They win a giant fruit platter, and then they also win the advantage of a tribe raid. And they send Caleb. Great choice, in my opinion, to send, because they're right. He is incredibly sociable. He is able to go, and he got so much information from Reba. I don't even think they were prepared with how much information they each gave to Caleb. So he ends up going, and he gets to give someone an advantage, right? So first of all, really fun twist, I would say. I like that Caleb was told this in secret.
Oh yeah, no, I was really into this as well. I feel like we hardly see camp raids, first of all, and sort of for it to be drawn out even more, where it's like, okay, and you have this advantage you can pass along to someone. I don't know if we've ever seen that. Someone from another tribe. I'm trying to really think back. I know there was like the extortion advantage. There's a lot of that on Survivor 40, Winners of War, where it's like people from the island from Extinction could send things into the game. But this just felt really, really unique. A great way to build trust, and yeah, I was really digging this. What did you think, Ollie?
Do you know what? I actually, because this is the first time we've never seen this advantage. Even you can't. I don't know about South African Survivor. I just not ever been on Australian, but this is the first time we've seen this advantage, and I actually think this advantage is such a great way of building, inter-tribe relationships. But at the same time, depending on who you give it to and how it spirals and happens, it could really bite the person that gets it, because it could be a thing of, here is the goodwill, but now I'm going to screw you over. So that's the kind of dynamics now that we're going to have to see. Is this going to be then later used to backfire on Caleb? But again, I enjoy new advantages that come into the game, just because it freshens everything up, and it does make people, think on their feet more, and it creates new dynamics, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I go back and forth with Caleb giving the goodwill advantage, that's what it's called, to Drew. Because here's the thing. Drew did open up to Caleb about, I have this advantage, right? He has the safety without power advantage. I was like, wow, real bold, honestly, to let Caleb know about that right here. And I think that made Caleb feel more comfortable with, like, oh, he told me I will give Drew this advantage. Let's see how this plays out, because Drew is like overly honest with some of his advantages, in my opinion. And the fact that he went straight to Dee, Julie, and Austin to tell them about this, it might be strategy, right? It might be like, you gotta watch out for Caleb when we all get there. But Ollie, I see you have a point.
So that's just reminded me of my thought when watching this. I remember seeing that, and I could think, I understood why he was doing it. It was obviously because of damage control from what had previously happened, him being caught trying to find the idol and stuff. But I don't think that was good damage control. Like, for me, if he's spoken to everyone, because the thing is, everyone already knows about your shot in the dark, and now you're going to tell them anyway about the idol. At least keep something to yourself. Like, have this goodwill advantage and keep it to yourself until it's needed. Like, so the fact that now, because again, this only benefits Austin, Julie, and Dee, because now all three of them know where a shot in the dark, where safety without power is, who has the idol, and now that Drew has this goodwill advantage. And again, if Drew tries to control, Dee and Julie have got all this ammo on him. So For me, when I saw that, just thinking back now, I was like, why didn't you just keep it to yourself? Why? I didn't get anything. Don't know what you're talking about. Goodwill? No.
You know, I'm gonna push back a tiny bit, Ollie. I think that the transparency here that Drew is sort of, you know, it's definitely not authentic. I'll say that. He's definitely fawning. He's fawning authenticity. However, I do think that it buys him time and it buys him something. You know, he has sort of always done this. When he went on the journey, he came back step by step. This is what I've done. This is my safety without power. You know, obviously this episode we see that he sort of does the same thing where he's really quick to be like, hey, this is just what happened. I don't want you to hear about it from anyone else. I want you to know that I am being honest with you, whatever. And I think that the one time we saw him try to keep a secret, we saw what happened. It was awful. So I think that him keeping, different strokes for different folks. There are certain people where I go, keep things secret. It's probably your best option. For Drew, we've found out that he's a terrible liar. He is. I don't think that it is in his best interest to keep everything a secret. And I think that this is something where it's not even something that he found on his own. Obviously, there is a world where Caleb can go back in the future and say, "Oh, and I gave something to Drew. Did he tell you about this?" So I think this is actually a very smart move. I think it's a very good move. But I think that his overall sort of way of playing this open, transparent game, I'm being honest with my tribe mates, is actually boding pretty well for him. And his biggest fault was when he did not do that.
That's true. And he's sort of playing catch up, right? Like he already, like you said, Phil, lied about other things. It didn't work out for him. And now he has to do damage control. So it makes sense from that perspective. Was there a world where he may not have had to be in that position at all? Maybe, but that's not the reality of what we're viewing. So there is a lot of other things that happened this episode that are important to talk about, but I do feel that there are other opportunities later for us to discuss them. So why don't we really quick skip to the Reba Alliance finding the idol. This was a really fun and cool edit. I really enjoyed this. But there was a part of me that thought Julie and Dee were just going to the way it worked out, it wasn't going to be possible, but there was a smidge that made me think that they were just going to take it for themselves.
And now look, let me get back on my soapbox. They should have kept that as a lie.
You think?
They should have not been transparent about that. So Ollie, I fully agree with you. They should have kept that to themselves. They should have never told Drew. They should have never told Austin, hey, I don't know where it went. You said Sifu was looking. Maybe Sifu found it. Do not tell them about that. That's my take.
It's a hammer. It is a giant hammer with writing on it, and then you have to go smash rocks at a common place that everyone goes to.
Smash the rocks, throw the hammer in the ocean.
Boom. I'm sorry. I agree.
That.
Boom,
Period,
boom, boom.
period.
There is the idol.
I agree, Ollie. I do not think that they should have shared that. I really don't. And when they did, I was so frustrated. I was sitting on the couch, literally, grinding my teeth. I was like, "Are you joking me? Are you joking? How are you telling them this?" I wish that they just kept the two of them. They literally just. I mean, I might have been the day before. Seemed like it might have been the same. Could have been same day. They saw that Austin and Drew were keeping secrets. Julie and Dee, have a little secret of your own.
You know what would have been really interesting? Don't even go find the idol, right? Don't even try to smash the rocks. Just bury the hammer. Just get rid of it. Or I don't want to throw it in the ocean. Don't pollute. But just bury the hammer. Get rid of it, and then Austin doesn't have a vote, and they can't find the idol. So that would be my look at this. What do you think?
Okay, so this is just my thought process. If Dee and Julie find the idol, because they found the idol and Austin didn't, who has the beware advantage, does that still mean that unless Austin gets the idol, he can't vote? I don't know. I think those are the little loopholes in the thing that I'm like, those are the answers I need.
I thought about that too, Ollie. I do think that when the second that the idol is found by anyone, he would probably get his vote. But honestly, now that I'm thinking about it again, maybe I'm like back on the other side. Maybe because I'm thinking about it, like then some producer would have to tell him, "Hey, you have your vote back."
Yeah.
What? Why do I have my vote back?
Let me ask you this. Do you think that like someone would tell him like, oh, you have your vote back? Or do you think it would be when he goes up to vote and realizes that he doesn't have the parchment that says you've lost your vote? Do you think that would be the reaction? That's what I'm sort of thinking.
No, I think it would. I think it would. And once again, not to get too in the weeds here, but I did hear this conversation being had about even like Sabaya's sort of wax idol, where hey, she burned it at tribal, so at that point she has the idol, and we know what the parchment says. The parchment says this idol is only good for one tribal council unless you risk your vote. Had she not opened it up and read it, would it just be like, all right, well, you found the idol and it's dead because this is the one tribal and it's over?
I feel like production, because you see that she's doing that at tribal council. I feel like production told her like, read that first.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's once again, it's not even like, pandering. I literally think that it's like without doing like there's a potential like game break thing there where she feels like she got cheated because it's like, oh, well, I didn't even read it yet. And it's like, oh, well, you did open it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like that would have been a tough sort of back and forth. So I think it was smart for a producer to be like, hey, like, make sure you read that up there, make a decision, and I think that this is a very similar thing where had Julie and Dee found Austin's idol, there would have been some sort of production meeting where they're like, okay, emergency. How do we have this play out? And they would have done whatever is the most fair and entertaining. That's what I think.
That's a great. I do wonder. I'm like, I hope it comes out at some point. Like, what would have the process been had A, B, and C not happened, and instead someone else found the idol? Like, what? There's so many contingencies. So maybe that is an element of this version of Survivor that may need some tuning. That's a great point. I'm so curious to actually hear what would happen there, but they don't. And the hammer is used, and Austin finds the idol, and they're all like, "Oh, we're so happy! We're great." Let's see how long that goes on for. And that's kind of a key theme of this episode, which is like alliance unity, tribe unity, and we're about to see a really great edit of that and the heartbreak of that in the immunity challenge. So let's go there. There's two main things that I really want to talk about with the immunity challenge. One is Bruce. So Phil, we talked about this at the beginning. What happened here? Like, why was there was emphasis. I wouldn't say it was a lot of emphasis, but there was emphasis on Bruce doing the challenge, right? Like trying to win for the tribe. And let's see, Bruce told Caleb to step aside so he can put a piece in. And then he says it one more time, like, oh, we got to get the puzzle done. And then it cuts to, I don't know who said it. Someone sitting out. I don't want to say a name because I didn't see lips moving, but someone says like, Bruce is just annoying me right now.
Kelly.
It was Kelly?
I think it was Kelly. Yeah. Because Kelly and Brando were the sit-outs for the immunity.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Then it had to, then I think it was definitely Kelly.
I mean, do they have a point? Like, I don't think they do. I think you're in the middle of a challenge and like you need to get it done. And I think that's what Bruce was trying to do. So this was weird to me. And when we talk about Bruce's edit, especially when we get into main characters, this was odd.
Yeah, there was a large highlight on sort of this multiple back and forths with, we're showing Bruce be hyper competitive, but in a negative light. And there is a world where he's just as, they're showing that same thing of him being competitive, but it's like, oh, he's doing what it takes to get it done, They got someone being like, Bruce is really working out there. But instead, it's negative light, negative music, and someone being like, Bruce is just so annoying. Really, really, really interesting. What's your thought, Ollie?
Yeah, I think because the thing is, when you watch it, if you're just watching it as a viewer and like really not dissecting it all, you do look at that and you're like, okay, Bruce just needs to tone it down. Because again, it was, I'm pretty sure now it was Kendra that was the cool, when they were doing the puzzle, it's Kendra that was the cooler. Katara, Jake and Bruce were moving stuff around. And I think when you look at the edit, it is kind of like Bruce is then kind of screaming over Kendra. And I think that's where it is. Again, I definitely am a competitive person. So I think however you take it, really. I can understand why it looked really negative. But also I can kind of see from the competitiveness, it's you want to get it done. And if you can kind of see it, it's just that way of going, hey, I think I can see it. I think like this, guys, I think I can see the way. Instead of just going, move this. I'm like, oh, okay. But again, I think with this specific thing, it's how, if you're just a casual viewer watching, you're looking at it going, calm down, Bruce, calm down. But then you're kind of looking at it and you're like, when we're dissecting it, you see so many different nuances. So
I mean, that's what the edit definitely seemed like it was trying to get the viewers to believe. But from my perspective, first of all, this portion of the challenge looked like it actually took a long time because we saw it happened very quickly, but we saw a lot of players were getting tired, defeated. I'm thinking of Lulu, right? Like we saw a lot of people starting to get really run down from this challenge. So I don't think like what Bruce was doing was like, I think he was just like, we just got to get this done, right? Like we are so close to an immunity win. This is exhausting. These pieces are probably so heavy. I'm thinking about that. They did this in Survivor Cambodia too, with this giant cube puzzle piece, and everyone was getting injured. Like it just seems like not a fun one to try to maneuver. So it was weird. I'm so curious to see what they're setting up for Bruce moving forward and just like what that story arc is going to look like. Because I don't know. I'm hoping that this is like a point of like a hero's journey of some sort, you know, like getting down and then like going back up again, but we'll see. The other thing that was interesting about this challenge was the music choice. Reba and Bella win, and we get this like very somber, very beautiful, it's gorgeous music. Like it focuses, I took a count. There's a close-up on Emily like 4 times. There's a close-up on Caleb once. There's a close-up on Sabaya once. This has a lot to do, I think, with what Emily says to Jeff on the mat after about how the other tribes have never had to experience what they're here celebrating their win. And we are doing this yet again, voting out someone. I mean, the show did such a good job at making Lulu like I felt their story. I don't know how you two felt, but I felt like they really were able to put some game behind them to form like genuine relationships. So like this music choice was so strong, and I thought really played it into the edit well.
Yeah, it made you root for them more. It made you sit there and go, I want whoever doesn't leave, I want all 3 of you to succeed because you've had such a rough start. And I feel like that's what the music editing and kind of the close-ups they did. They wanted to show kind of Lulu at their lowest to kind of maybe then start to prop them up. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely emphasizing their struggle, and look, Emily's right. You know, everything is just an illusion until you go to tribal and you put the pen to parchment. Any alliance is a real alliance. Everyone is trusting. Everyone's a good person. Everyone is, is happy, and I think that Lulu is the only sort of tribe that has had to like figure it out, and I can imagine that being draining after a really tiring challenge. On top of that, I mean, we literally hear Sabaya say, I feel like I'm going to pass out. Like, I'm so exhausted. It is, it can't feel good. It can't feel good. And I do appreciate Survivor giving us the music, very easy to understand, but maybe for the casual viewer, to even like help them feel what they might be feeling at that moment.
This is just clocked in my brain because you mentioned Sabaya's frustration. When that was all going on, the only person that you saw kind of have any sort of negative attributions at that moment was Sabaya, because you saw Emily really defeated and deflated. You saw Caleb drained. You saw Sean drained. And you kind of then saw Sabaya being like, no, I'm irritated. Like, I'm just fed up with this. And it's the only kind of section during that part where you see anyone show any sort of a negative reaction, apart from when Emily's there kind of talking about her stages of losing the challenge.
Yeah. I don't know if it seemed like everyone was pretty upset and defeated by the end of that challenge. And I mean, like we said, even during it, I want to hear from whenever we're allowed to talk about it, I want to know from someone who was there, like, how long did that take? Because the edit made it look pretty quick, but like, we know that probably took a really long time. So I could see why people were so upset after, right? Like, it makes a lot of sense. And again, just that excellent music choice. So let's go back to Lulu's camp. They just lost. And now we're in game mode. And what we know from earlier in the episode is that Sabaya said, while Caleb was raiding the other camp, Caleb is a strong player. He is like, we can't really keep him in any longer. Let's take this move. And we get this really great edit of Emily. Again, we'll talk about music and how important that is. Trying to put the pieces together in her head as to what the best option is for this tribal council. Now we're here. And Sabaya, again, we're reiterating the plan. Sabaya informs Emily about how she doesn't have a vote, how she has the idol in the wax and she needs to melt it. Emily is finally getting this information, very similar to Dee and Julie earlier in the episode, except Emily has a different approach with information like this.
I think this is almost exactly what I was sort of getting at before, where, you know, when you get information, you can choose how you want to contextualize it. And it can be contextualized as, oh, you're being super honest with me, and I really appreciate that. And I think that, honestly, even back on Reba, I think that Julie is always going to look at Drew telling her information and going, oh, my sweet little son, that's how I see you, and you're just being honest with me. Thank you. Whereas Dee is like, but he lied to us seconds ago. And I think here with Emily and Sabaya, Emily was choosing. So you telling me this right before going to Tribal is not you being honest. This is you panicking. This is you trying to get ahead of something. And honestly, I think that Emily clocked it correctly. I think that she had the proper take. And what I like, and I think that she is clearly growing as a player. She did not do the typical Emily thing to let Sabaya know, why would you not tell me this earlier? It seems like everyone else knew. You lied to me about the vote thing, whatever. She just goes, oh my gosh, you have an idol? Oh my God, that's so cool, whatever. High fives, they're kikiing, whatever. This did not land well on Emily's ears. However, she did not show that. I think that was very good gameplay.
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
Please, no, Ollie, I want to hear your thoughts about this too.
No, this was this was Emily finally connecting the dots. And that's what I really appreciate about this kind of end section, because again, like Phil said, if I was in that situation, I would have straight away gone there going, okay, so that's connected to the dot of when I asked why there was only 2 votes. Oh, you didn't vote. That was why. You lied straight to my face there. And now all of a sudden it's, you need my vote. You need to secure that Caleb goes. So, oh, you're going to be truthful about the idol, which is why you can't vote, and all this stuff. And it's like, Emily is I've always said this, Emily is a very logical person. She's logical. It's just the fact that she'll just verbalize all of it when she should keep it to herself. And this was the perfect time where she kept it to herself and went, here's all the things that prove why I shouldn't trust you. Even though you've been honest, this is the reason why it's not good. This is the reason why I shouldn't trust you. This is the reason why this doesn't only help you. So the fact that she went to Caleb, I was like, smart girl. Because it would have just been, they got Caleb out and Sean and Sabaya were the 2. Emily's gone next. And Emily knew that, which is why she did what she did.
Can you imagine what would have happened had Caleb not taken the time to extend that olive branch to Emily? Everything would have changed. And also something something that's very important to set how this sort of manipulated the viewers in a sense was Caleb and Sabaya. First of all, Sabaya was very quick in the edit, at least, to say, what if I just told Emily we're voting for you? And then Caleb, I thought, was excellent at navigating this conversation. He was like, oh, okay, like, so we'll just tell Emily that we're voting for each other. And that was so important for the viewers to see, because all of a sudden we're like, oh no, like Caleb suddenly is thinking, oh, okay, it's just the plan. So if Emily did come up to me and say they're voting you out, Caleb would just think, oh, it's just the plan. We're still voting Emily out. So then Emily goes to Caleb and says, it's not me, it is you, unless you vote for Sabaya. I'm voting for Sabaya. So good. It's just like, we're going into tribal council not really not knowing anything. Sometimes I feel like the edits in previous seasons of Survivor, or previous episodes even, are very much like, you could tell where they are trying to put your attention as a viewer and where it actually might end up. And I feel like this was done so smart based on what we know, and it was just great. So tribal council, you two, what are some standout moments?
Sabaya putting the idol in the fire,
Of course,
and cooking it like it was a roast. It was lovely. I was like, go on, Gordon Ramsay. Yeah, that moment, and also just the suspense, the actual, because the only person you knew that was safe and was not going home was Sean. He was the only one that you had, because anything could have happened. The reason I don't put Emily in that category, even though we knew where the votes were going, Emily had every chance in that tribal to screw herself over. I'm so glad that she didn't. But yeah, the only person that was truly safe there to me was Sean. So that's what kept me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, that's super fun tribal. As Ollie said, 100% highlight is her putting the wax idol in the fire. No question at all. And I love how it was a mix of a little barbecue. She's really cooking it up, whatever. And it also felt like a surgical room where once she gets it out, she goes, canteen. And Sean runs over. Oh. We're gonna let this sit out for a little bit. Like I loved that. It felt like I was like, is this his house? Like this is Grey's Anatomy. This is awesome. But yeah, I also think her going to the tribal booth and that being the first time that she reads the actual scroll and she realizes, it's so funny. It feels like there is like a first act, and then this is the second act. The first act was, oh my God, I got an idol in this wax. Oh my God, we don't have fire. It's a big eye roll. It's a big, oh my Lord. And then she gets it. Okay, we cooked it in the fire at tribal. I have the scroll. Oh my God, it's only good for one tribal, or I have to, relinquish my vote. It was so awesome. And I love this because for a long time, Jeff would always say, this game is not, like, don't make things easy. And we don't like to make things easy for the people that compete in this game, right? But he would say this all the time, but we did not see that. There were times where it was like, okay, well, this guy was walking down a path and found an idol that he can hold on to until the final five. It's a little too easy. This feels like you have to earn everything. And then once again, it's interesting because this has been Jeff's headline for a long time, but I feel it. I feel like I'm seeing it.
Yeah. Just to piggyback on that with the idol, I think also it gives the players a chance to showcase with the idol how strong of a social game you have. Because idols normally, you're like, I use this as a strategic move. Say, this is hypothetical, someone gets that idol. So say, for example, I get that idol and I risk my vote again. So I have that idol to final five. I use it. I then get to final tribal council. I can use that and go, I got this idol and I used a strategic move to get rid of Phil. But actually, this proved my social game because I was able to get rid of 2 of my votes and ensure that I was safe and no one was ever targeting me. So I feel like the idols actually even help with the social aspect of games if people can use them correctly and showcase that, which is what I'm looking forward to this season.
Yep. And the most amazing thing about this idol in particular is we, the viewers, learned the rules of it when Austin and Reba found it. So we know what was in it for Sabaya. Sabaya was such an amazing character this season. I loved getting to know her these 3 episodes. Gone too soon, in my opinion. Hopefully we see her soon. Definitely a main character in my eyes. And when we get back from the commercial break, we are going to talk all about main characters of Survivor and what that means to the edit. So we'll be right back.
My name is Jonah Fielko, and I'm the CEO of Bracketology.tv, fantasy sports for reality television. We offer fantasy games for shows like The Bachelor, Survivor, Big Brother, RuPaul's Drag Race, and counting. You start by creating a community. Within your community, you can create a fantasy league for each show that you want to play fantasy games for. Within the league, you can choose up to 3 of our 4 game types, and our most popular is the Advanced League. Choose a team of contestants, and depending on what they do and say during the episode, that's how your team will gain or lose points each week. We also have elimination-style games like our Confidence Pool. This is where you choose how confident you are that each contestant will survive elimination that week. And we've also got March Madness-style brackets. Come back a couple hours after the episode to check your scores and watch you climb the leaderboard. Bracketology is free to play, so grab your friends, your family, your coworkers, and head to bracketology.tv for more info.
All right. We there was so much to talk about this episode. Like we're going overtime definitely, but now we have to talk about main character edits in Survivor. So we made this fun little graphic that we're so excited to show all of you. Main characters. There we go. Main character energy. What does it mean? What are the rules to having a main character edit in Survivor? So we came up with like 6 rules that we think applies to main characters in Survivor. Number 1, the events are edited from their point of view. Super important. We see it in this episode. Number 2, castaways from other tribes talk about them. Start thinking about castaway names who have appeared on other tribes this season. Music syncs to them. That is huge. We see that. We talked about it already in this episode, the music syncing to very particular people this episode. They always have something to say in confessionals. Usually they have, even if they're not heavily featured, they extend their commentary. Viewers learn something about them that is non-game related, and that's pretty early on in the season, right? And it's more than just their lower thirds that say like data analysis or something like that. And finally, they are always seen as possible vote outs, right? If you're going into an episode, or if you see a promo for the episode that says, oh, so-and-so is going to be voted out, it's their time, chances are it's not. It might, but chances are it's not. And I have to give this little note here. A main character is not always a winner, and a winner is not always a main character. So Phil and Ollie, how do you feel about these rules to a main character on Survivor?
I think they all make sense, because when you look at people, when you think about a particular season and you're like, this is the person I remember the most, and you look back and it's like, because they were given the main character, they were giving the main character energy, they were giving the main character edit. So yeah, I completely agree with all of them. I will just say your shade on number 5 to Phoenicia Annalise. Don't shade Phoenicia Annalise like that, Matthew.
Viewers learn something about them that is not game related?
When you talked about the lower third and then said financial analyst.
No, but we've heard
Emily
well, actually, let's talk about Emily. Yeah, we gave Emily a drag name in our RuPaul's Drag Race Simulator video. You can check that out on our channel. It's really wrong in terms of I'll just put it out there. It does not accurately define the season, but go check it out anyway. What I will say is Emily never had to tell us she was a financial analyst. We learned so much about Emily and who she is as a person. That's what that point number 5 means. We learned who she is outside of the game. And she even said she brought a hyped up version of herself into the game. And that was so much of her journey through these first 3 episodes in particular. I will just say real quick, I really thought at the end of episode 2 that they were sort of ending the storyline for now with Lulu and Emily and Sabaya especially, but little did I know they were just getting started with it. So yeah, I mean, listen, Phil, we love main characters on Survivor. Tell us, we're going to go to the next slide here, about some of these players and why they might show up on this list.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, I think that this is the list of main characters from this season so far. Look, Emily made herself known from the marooning. I mean, from literal, not even I wouldn't even say day one. I will instead say within the first 10 minutes, this woman was clocked by everybody, and she sort of inserted herself to be a main character. She's being followed. We are also hearing a lot about her from other people in other tribes. Obviously, Bruce bringing her up on Bello. Caleb, I mean, he's making really, really big moves. And we have music syncs. We have him having, creating an alliance with Emily. He's being shown in a very positive light. He seems like he's dictating his own narrative, which is fantastic. Drew, hyper competent in literally every single confessional that has ever been given to him. Look, I'll let some of y'all run through the rest of them, but these are definitely the main characters here. What do you think, Ollie?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we do see right now so many main characters. And again, that's to do with the fact we're getting 90-minute episodes. We're getting so much more content about people. But I know when we were making this, for me, Bello is the hardest one to pinpoint a main character.
Me too.
And that's because all of them have different qualities that we've seen. Because when I think of number 5, I think of kind of Kendra and Jake. When I think about I'm just going to get it up, where you see the view about other people, events edited from their POV. You get that with Katara, with Bruce. They're always seen as a possible vote out. Bruce. They always have something to say. I mean, that's Kelly, that's Kendra. All of them have the makings to be a main character. I think what's going to be interesting with the swap coming up is to see who from Bello really does emerge and we start seeing those kind of points that would make them a fully well-rounded main character. And again, I want to talk about the honorable mentions because I think for the viewers, I was pushing for D. But that's only because I think Dee is an up-and-coming main character. I think right now we've seen it this episode, we were getting her POV on things and we're kind of seeing everything that's going on with her. So right now she's not the main character of Reba, but given a few more episodes, I think we'll start to see the main character Dee come to fruition.
Yeah.
I mean, look, go ahead, Matthew.
I was going to say, you make a great point that these are ever changing. Like we can try to identify who is a main character, but next episode, it might be someone completely different, someone we haven't heard from. And I want to also just flag, we did make the decision to not include castaways who have been voted out already, just for the sake of this. Had this been 1 week earlier, Sabaya would have absolutely been on this list. So just want to flag that. Yeah. Phil, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I actually would even say that Dee she's already getting there. She is on the other tribe. She's one of the only people that is willing to challenge the essentially top state people on her tribe, which at this point are Drew and Austin. They hold all the advantages. They have a lot more information than all the rest. And Dee is clocking that. And Dee, I think she is absolutely already starting to be a main character. And I would not say she's going to grow into a true main character in a few episodes. I think that we're closer than we think.
Yeah.
No. But I think this is definitely a really good list. It's always ever changing. And I would even go as far as to say that someone like Dee, even when there's not something enormous and super substantial going on, they are making sure that we do not forget about them. And I think that is a really, really sort of, I would even add that it's like a number 7. The editors will never want you to forget about these main characters. And I think a perfect example of this is Gabler. In early season 40, oh my God, correct me if I'm wrong here, season 43, Gabler was, the truth is that he was not strategizing heavily at all. And it was before his whole Ala Gabler arc, floating under the surface. He was just being sort of groovy grandpa vibes. That said, they did not want us to forget about him. We saw him put the palm frond, or saw him put the palm on Sammy to keep him warm at night. Super goofy edit. Super, honestly, in the long term, narrative of the show, was that huge? No. But did we forget about him? Not for a second. Even when he was not at the forefront of strategy. And so I think it's interesting because we saw the same thing with the big toe moment. They want us to remember her, even when there's not something huge going on. So that's my take on that.
Phil, let's talk about that because two things happened. One, Dee talked about having a larger toe, and that may seem like a throwaway thing, but first of all, there was a section of a challenge that same episode that had to do with balance, right? So we did see that worked out well for her. I'm just calling it right now. I think that Dee might possibly win a balance individual immunity, and I think J Maya might win a visual puzzle individual immunity because both of them have had their edits of we have these things that are strengths, and it might not play out right now, but it might happen later.
I have a really interesting take on J Maya, and we'll get to it whenever you feel is best. But I have a wild theory about what's going on with J Maya because to sort of what we were saying before, she's sort of faded into the background. I was really excited about her from the jump, but she has definitely faded into the background as more of a secondary character. But we held for so long on her trying to decipher this puzzle on the tribe flag. We kept asking, why did they hold on that for so long? Why did they hold on that for so long? Is she going to eventually find it? We found out the answer. The answer is no. The reason why I think that we held on that and what I think that we might be going towards is actually, it might happen literally next episode. We know that we have a swap. We know that every single tribe does not have the cipher on their flag. Every single tribe is a little bit different. I think that J Maya is going to be one of the few people from Reba who go to another tribe, look at their flag and go, huh, the cipher on our flag is not seen on this flag, and it's going to inform her that there is something special about that being on the flag on her tribe camp. That is sort of my early call. I feel like it's going to be a confessional going back to the fact that I saw this on my flag. I don't see it here. And let me tell you this. If she's on Bello, I think that J Maya might find the Bello idol.
That'd be pretty exciting. I have to say, Phil, listen, do you remember when J Maya first saw the symbols and they gave her that edit of like all of the shapes swirling around? I do think that we might get something. The only reason I say she might win an immunity challenge is because she might. I can see them doing that edit again somewhere later down the line with J Maya, and I totally agree with you, Phil. I think that is a great call out that she's going to notice something different about the flags when there's a tribe swap, unless they end up back at Reba.
But this is the thing. We've seen that happen in previous seasons with, obviously, I think it was you, Matthew, that mentioned it, Carson and Fire. Someone mentioned there was constantly editing Carson and Fire. I can't remember who it was now. I thought we had a conversation about this. But again, it's that you just see these little oh my god, what's the word? Nuances. You see these little nuances of like things that happen. I would love to see J Maya find an immunity idol. I would love J Maya to win individual immunity. I'd like J Maya to win, but that's just my opinion. No, but I just want to go back to what we were saying about Dee and comparing her to Gabler. Just because I have a kind of, not that I disagree, I get it, but when I watch Gabler's edit and when I think about it, there is part of me that feels like she might not be getting main character energy, but it might be a dark horse type of story arc. Because you didn't really see Gabler. He was always there, but he was never the ones that everyone saw. He was as we say, he was always just mentioned here and then he came up. So that's why, for me, I feel like if Dee right now is getting any kind of edit, I think he could potentially be getting Dee could be getting like the dark horse edit, where we see that, okay, she's here right now with all the other people and she's going to pick up. But if she just maybe stays there, lets other people take this and then swoops in. I don't know why my hands were like this. So sorry. I'll start again.
I mean, okay. I get that point. Honestly, looking at this list now, I might move Dee and Julie out of honorable mentions into full-on main characters. Because here's the thing. I think the only thing where they lost airtime, and they had to talk about Drew and Austin's pairing, the idol. They had to talk about that stuff a lot. And I think what Dee's confessionals actually did a great job, where Dee was able to really verbalize how it related to her game in particular. Now, there's something I got to talk about before we leave. Chris says, I disagree on Jake being a main character, as it felt like he only stood out last episode. Okay.
Fair.
Chris, I can see why you are saying that. In my opinion, I think we've actually seen a lot more of Jake than we've actually realized. Right in the first episode, we get this amazing thing. First of all, he's one of the players from Bello that goes on Sweat and Savvy. We get Katora. Basically, we learn that Jake is a lawyer, and we know that Jake likes talking about being a lawyer. And that inspires Katora's strategy of, let's get Jake talking about him being a lawyer. In this episode, we see his relationship, or sorry, in episode 2, we hold on, going back, episode 1, he is one of the main targets of Bello and Kendra in particular before the immunity challenge ended. Seeing that story arc with Kendra initially wanting to target Jake into episode 3, where Kendra wants to work with Jake, I think that is actually a really awesome arc to have. We also have episode 2. We also have episode 2 where we see I'm blanking. I'm sorry. I should have come up with something first. But yeah, Ollie.
To add to your point, and when we talk, to add to your point, and then also to bring up something Phil mentioned about we always see them. Jake has, correct me if I'm wrong, Jake has been in pretty much every promo or here's what happens next time on Survivor. We always see something from him. We see it coming on with SWAT. We saw it with the fire. I feel like we saw it in the promos coming up to season 1, like this season. We saw that we always saw him mentioned. So I wouldn't count Jake out, because he's always, to what Phil suggested about we always see them, there's always something about that. We've always been seeing Jake.
We have. And I will say for episode 2, it was mostly about him and Bruce being on similar sides. So I guess that's the one thing. But it's a nice carryover episode into what we know now with Kendra and Bruce, Kendra and Jake in episode 3.
Mm.
All right. Phil, what do you think about Jake's edit?
I think it's interesting. When he sort of first came on the scene, when the season first started, I definitely thought that he was not long for the game. I think that my perception of him is completely flipped, where I actually do feel like he's doing a lot better now. That said, I guess they had to, pin someone as being at the bottom of every tribe, and I felt like Jake was definitively like, oh wow, like he's going to be the first one out. He's going to be the sacrificial lamb, and I think he's in way better standing than he was before. I might even go as far as to say that he's one of the safer members on Bello. I don't think that people are really looking at him, but now there's this tribe swap, and I go, I think he's someone who can go to a new tribe and make good relationships. And despite who he ends up on the new tribe with, there is no one that is specifically coming for his head. Where Bruce, look, if Bruce and Katori end up on the same tribe, that is going to be nasty. That is going to be bad for Bruce. And I actually even think that even if they're on different tribes, Katora, as she said in this literal episode, she goes, I'm just going to drop little tidbits. I'm going to repeat things that he says that are annoying. I'm going to do this, whatever he's sprinkling. So I think that Bruce is in for a tough ride.
To be fair, everything you were just saying then, the one thing that came to my head was Jack's going to be so happy with his draft if Jake's going to continue doing well in Bruce's. And that was the only thing I was thinking of. So sorry.
Well, we'll see. Honestly, I would love to see a tribe swap happen. I can't wait for that, by the way. I love that we're finally here with this new era of Survivor. But a tribe swap with Emily, Katura, and Bruce on the same tribe, I would love to see what would come out of that. With that, though, we do have the tribe swap coming up next of the upcoming episode. So we're going to be here next week to talk about all of the different dynamics and review that episode as well. We hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for staying over. I know we went a long way, but there was so much to talk about with this episode. And keep an eye out based on our main character energy rules. Who do you think is a main character? Even if we didn't talk about them here in particular.
J Maya.
Could be. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and we will be back next week.